Should you help your adult children with debt? What does that even mean? Ted is here. Let's begin.
This is Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Ted, welcome back. You were not on the show last week because Scott Terrio was here, and you won't be on the show next week because Charlie will be here. So you got to do 3 shows worth of talking.
So I'm going to interrupt you a lot today. Exactly. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's exactly right. So, okay. Tell me if you agree with this statement. The average 25-year-old today, unless they get help from their parents, does not expect to ever be able to buy a house.
Yeah, that's probably correct. Because you got that average word in there.
I got the average word.
There'll be some of them, the outstanding ones with the specialized degrees and the funny knowledge, will be making ridiculous amounts of money that we would just gawk at.
Right.
And then most of them will be saying, "Would you like fries with that?"
Yeah, it's a huge curve, right? Yep. So, well, and even somebody with a good job, like if you've got a job making, I don't know what a good job is, $50,000 a year. Let's say you got a job making $100,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that's a good job
exactly.
anymore.
Like, what are so $100,000 a year, you're paying half of it in taxes and whatever.
Well, your take-home pay on $100,000 is
maybe it's 60 or 70 or something.
Not that. Well, 60 something. Yep.
And then, okay, you're paying to live, so you're paying X number of dollars a month for rent. So how much can you actually save?
Right.
Okay, maybe you can save $10,000 a year.
Well, and we're not talking about helping your adult children by dying and leaving them money.
No, we are not. We are not saying that
because that's most of their financial planning seems to be. I'm going to get my parents' money.
That is the plan for a lot of people.
And if
so
I die first, my wife will spend it all before the girls can have any of it.
And so she should. That's what I say for having had.
She had to put up with me.
Exactly. She had to put up with you. So, okay. Right. So, I mean, we've kind of answered the question. Why is it that it's very difficult? Well, it's because of math, right?
Right.
So, like, what is different today than when you and I were boys,
Well, so let's go back to the 80s when tuition was relatively cheap. Mm-hmm. You could probably work a summer job to save enough money to do it.
I did.
So you don't have huge student loans. Right?
Yeah.
Now...
it cost me $1,000 a year to go to the University of Toronto in the 1980s.
There you go.
That was tuition. Mm-hmm. So yes, I could get a summer job and do that. So, okay, so now the difference is you got to have a bunch of student loans.
That's right. Yeah, unless your parents are paying for it. I mean, even RESPs don't do it for most people. You end up with some kind of student debt.
And so you are starting your working life.
You're already, yeah. So instead of getting out of school and saying, I'm going to start saving for my first house, or I'm going to buy that new car, I'm already behind the 8 ball by $60,000 for student loans and nothing to show for it.
Right. And we know that the average in Ontario for someone who has a student loan, it takes 10 years to pay it off.
Right.
Which kind of makes sense if we're talking about those kind of numbers. So now you're 30 years old, 35 years old before you can start saving for that house.
Or start thinking about a family.
Yeah, everything is definitely pushed back. And then obviously the price of a house is way higher than it was back in the day.
And by the time you pay off those student loans, it's going to be way higher again.
Or it will have crashed and won't be worth anything. So
10 years, it'll still bounce back, right?
So who knows?
It's
okay.
cyclical.
So the question today is about helping your adult children. So obviously, we want our kids to be successful financially.
Right. Every generation wants the generation after them to be better off.
Yeah, like why
leave the place better than you found it.
Why wouldn't you? So should you help your adult children financially? That's what we're going to talk about today. And of course, this is the Debt Free in 30 podcast, in case you didn't know what you were watching there, people.
Right.
Where we talk about debt. So the more pertinent question is going to be, should you help your children with debt? Should you co-sign for them? Should you loan them money? Should you co-sign a mortgage? So let's start with the reasons why, yes, you should. We're going to start with the pros, and then we'll hit the cons after that. So here's why you should help your children with debt. And you tell me your thoughts on this. So number one is, well, because you can. Like, you're an old man.
Right. Hey, speak up. I didn't hear you.
What? You've got money.
Right.
Kids don't. So doesn't that kind of make sense that you should be helping them?
Well, so from a financial standpoint, either I've got savings or I get better access to interest rates so that they'll save money that way. So sure, that makes sense.
Okay, let's talk
Payments
about that.
Slower, right?
Better access to interest. What do you mean by that?
Well, so I've accumulated assets. I've had years of making money, so I have better access to interest rates. When I borrow money, it's cheaper than when a kid borrows money.
So, like, you own a house, so you can borrow against your house.
My wife owns a house.
Okay, somebody does. So if you have an asset like a house, you can get a HELOC.
That's right. So now you've got collateralized debt as opposed to unsecured debt. So it's probably going to be at, well, prime plus a half or prime plus 1%. The debt doesn't have any collateral. It's going to be plus 5 or 6%.
Unless it's a credit card.
Right. And then it's going to be plus 15%.
Yeah. So you are in a position to help because of your life situation. So it kind of makes sense. You've either got savings or you've got the ability to borrow at much more reasonable rates than the kids do.
Right.
The kids do. The other reason I think for helping your kids is to, and again, we're talking about adult children here, is to get them through a temporary situation.
Sure.
Stuff happens. So what are the obvious things that we see in our world that are temporary situations that lead to problems?
Well, so the most obvious, the first two are going to be, so for whatever reason, they lose their job. AI has replaced it. It's been outsourced to someplace else. It doesn't really matter. They don't have time to build up any kind of safety net or emergency fund, so they're going to rely on debt if something like this happens.
Yeah. So job loss is the obvious one.
Yep.
You know,
And marital breakdown's the next most obvious, right?
You get separated, which I guess if you can't get married till you're 35 now, maybe that's going to be less of a
but they're still living together and sharing costs, right? So suddenly you had two people paying the rent and deferring the groceries and all that sort of stuff, and now you're back to one person doing it.
So it doesn't matter if you were legally married or not.
Right, you're still in a relationship.
The math changes. And then, people get sick, they get in an accident, whatever.
Yeah.
So
anything goes wrong.
So the theory is, okay, well, if my kid's situation is temporary, they're going to be working again. If I help them out for the next few months, then when they get back to work, they're back on a level playing field.
Right.
As opposed to they go out, borrow a whole bunch of money.
Mm-hmm. And then when they get back to work, they're dealing with paying back all that debt, so they're still behind the eight ball.
Right. And now instead of giving them, $10,000, I got to help them with $15,000 because they got all the interest and accumulated and all the rest. So you're better off helping them now than helping them later. It'll end up being cheaper for you. The next reason why you should help your children with the whole debt situation, it will help relieve stress for them.
Sure. Because life's hard enough already, right? They are transitioning from school probably into the workforce, and that in and of itself is, they don't expect you to show up at school apparently. They expect you to show up for work. Yeah,
you kind of don't get paid if you don't show up. So they got a whole bunch of other stresses on them. The financial stress is just yet one more. If you can help alleviate that, then that's probably a good thing. Setting your kids up for the future. Well, again, that's what you already said, that you kind of want your kids to do as well or better than you did. So paying for their education would be the obvious one, or at least contributing to it. We can talk about buying a home. We'll get to that in a minute.
Right.
Now, the other reason you should help your kids is perhaps by helping them, you can also help them manage their money better.
Well, sure. If you make an investment in your kids at the start of when they're building their new financial life themselves, you will probably pay dividends to yourself later, right?
Yep.
If you can get them on the correct path to start, then you're not going to be having to relieve or assist them later, at least not to the same extent.
Yeah. Again, better to help them out with a couple of bucks now than with way more than a couple of bucks in the future.
Teach them how to fish.
There you go. Yes, we all know that you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life, or something like that. Is that
something like that?
How it goes?
Right. If you teach him to invest in a multinational fishing conglomerate.
Yeah, even better. Yeah, if you teach a man,
if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him how to fish, you feed him for his life.
So, why should you help your children with debt? Well, there may be some tax advantages to helping them now, as opposed to in the future. Now, I'm not an inheritance expert, and I don't know how it all works and everything, but if, when you die, they inherit some stocks and those stocks end up getting sold and there's capital gains and all the rest of it, well, maybe it would have been better to just help them out now. And the final reason, in your own self-interest, well, maybe if you help them out now,
they'll help you later.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll be around to.
I got the 3 girls. One of them is going to want to help me.
We hope. We can only hope. I have no daughters, so I'm kind of out of luck.
Pretty much.
Okay, so now let's go to the more pertinent stuff, which is why you should not help your children with debt or anything to do with this.
And all of these answers would work with you should not help anyone.
Right, exactly. You can replace children with anything.
Yep.
And in fact, we all, we've got it in the background here, my classic book, Straight Talk on Your Money. We all remember chapter 21, still available as Kindle, go and log in and whatever. And in that, I explained that you should not loan money or co-sign for friends or family or anybody.
Right.
And
if you're going to give them money, give it to them and be done with it.
So let's go through the reasons, and then you can provide your comments. But yes, let's start with that. I'm not saying you shouldn't help people.
Nope, that's not what we're saying at all.
So explain, and I agree with you, why if you're going to help someone, you don't loan them the money, you don't co-sign, you give them the money.
If you're going to make a self-sacrificing act to help someone, it's going to involve some sacrifice. That's
kind of what sacrifice means.
So if you're going to lend them money, then there's the stress on the relationship of them having to pay you back. So have you really made a sacrifice? And are you really helping them? I guess it's a question of timing. You're getting them through the first problem, but you've just transported it now into one that's stretched over a longer period of time.
Well, and you are also potentially getting yourself into a problem.
Well, you're certainly creating stress for yourself.
Right. So I'm going to skip down to the bottom of the script here, and let's just talk about this right now. So your kid wants to buy a house, which is kind of weird because she's in grade 9. But let's just say that she wants to buy a house. So you've got some choices there. Choice number 1, no.
Right.
Can't help you. Choice number 2, I will co-sign the mortgage for you. Choice number 3, I will give you the money for the down payment. And choice number 4 is I will go and borrow money to give you money for the down payment. Now, in all cases, you're helping the kid.
Right.
What's the problem with co-signing the mortgage?
Well, the biggest problem with co-signing for anybody is you are now a co-borrower. If they don't make the payments, you have to make the payments. So before you co-sign for anyone at any time, make sure there's room in your budget that you can actually make those payments and you're willing to do so.
Right. So in the case of a mortgage, so, every house costs $1 million now, I think, right? And so you got to give the kid a couple of $100,000 for the down payment because everybody's got a couple $100,000 sitting around. You probably got it in your pocket right now. But you are also on the hook for the mortgage if you've co-signed it.
Right.
Now, historically, it's like, well, who cares? If they don't pay the mortgage, the house gets sold, the bank gets paid, you're never going to be on the hook for it.
Right.
That's not so much anymore.
Except when the market corrects itself.
And if it was a case of, they put down 5% on that condo because that's all they can afford, they can't afford a house, and then something goes wrong, they have to sell it or the bank takes it. If there was only a 5% down payment and the real estate commissions to sell it is 5%, you have to sell it for exactly what you paid for it to have any hope of getting out even.
Right.
If the price has fallen by 10 or 20%, which we're seeing in some pockets, now there's a significant loss and you're on the hook for it.
That's right.
So if you're going to help your kid buy a house, is it the most prudent thing is to say, whatever money I can give you, I will give you, and that's it. I'm not co-signing. I'm not doing anything.
Probably. Because if the bank won't approve somebody to buy the house by themselves, you're not doing them any favors by helping them.
And then the kid can't buy the house then if they don't have you as the co-signer.
Right.
But maybe that's just the way it is.
Then the way the rules are set up right now, then they just can't afford to buy a house yet.
So, and this is kind of a harsh thing to say because wait a minute, you bought your house 40 years ago and it cost you $50,000 and you got all this equity built up and you won't help me.
Right.
Well, I think again, and I will stress this point again, give people whatever money you want.
Right.
But when you take on a liability, you are now taking on the entire liability. Okay, so maybe the house is a bad example because, over the long term they go up. What about a car? Is it any different?
Same sort of concern, except for cars depreciate quickly, and a car is much more likely to be involved in an accident than a house. And so if someone's financed a car, and let's say that they're old-fashioned, so they've only financed it over 4 years instead of now the 7 or 8 year loans that you can get. Well, in a 4-year car loan, the first 2.5 years, you owe more money than the car is worth if the car is kept in pristine condition. So if anything has gone wrong, it's been, banged into once or twice, or even if it just has dents and the maintenance isn't great, it's now underwater for the first 2.5 years if anything does go wrong. So you can't sell the car to pay off the debt.
So you've always got to be thinking about it as I am liable for the entire amount.
Right.
Not the monthly payment.
Yep.
If the kid can't pay it, okay, I can help you for a couple of months. No, you are liable for the entire payment. The other problem with that is even if the kid makes all the payments, everything is great. There's an impact on your credit score.
Sure, because now you've got more credit showing up on your history, and probably your utilization's gone up because that new credit is being fully utilized.
And it's the utilization that can be the killer.
Right.
So you've got $10,000 worth of credit cards yourself, but now you've got a $50,000 car loan, which isn't even your car, the kid's driving it. So if you then need to replace your car or want to buy a condo or anything like that,
how are you going to qualify?
Now it's that much harder. So,
or is it going to be more expensive?
Yes, you qualify, but the interest rate's a point higher.
Yeah.
So the number one reason why you should not help your adult children with debt is it can come back and bite you.
Right.
It's simple as that. So if you only take one thing from this podcast, that would be it. And so again, our solution is, yes, give them money. Here, I can help you. I can give you $10,000 towards the down payment. I've got that money in savings. It will not crush me if you are never able to pay me back.
The money is gone. You don't have to worry about it. There's no stress. The relationship doesn't change.
Right. And in fact, I am considering it to be a gift. You don't have to pay me back.
Right.
That way, when you come over for Christmas dinner, I'm not asking you, hey, when am I getting my payments? I'm just giving you the money. We're nice and even on it. Which brings us to, that's the financial side of it. Let's talk about the psychological side of it. Because coming over for Christmas dinner and having to have the discussion about that money you owe me does not sound like a whole lot of fun.
Well, and even if you don't bring it up, the child might bring it up because, it's pressure you're adding to them. They know, okay, I borrowed money from mom and dad. I got to pay it back. I got to pay it back. Anytime I see them, I have to tell them why I'm not paying them back yet.
Right. And even though mom and dad maybe aren't even thinking about it because, we kind of in our head considered it to be a gift, it still puts pressure. And so the kid is now like, well, okay, I can't come over and visit as much because I got to work overtime. I can't,
just if they are having difficulty paying you back, they'll just stop talking to you. Like there's this wall that you're going to build between you that, real or otherwise, they're going to think, well, I can't go see mom and dad because I owe money and I can't pay.
Right. And I'm embarrassed about the whole situation.
Right.
Is there also the chance that you are making your kids more dependent on you then?
Oh, certainly. So, I mean, the whole helicopter parent thing where if your kid does something wrong, the parent steps in and tries to fix it for them. Well, you're not allowing the kid to grow up. You're not allowing them to learn. You're not empowering them to become a fully actualized adult. How's that for?
I don't even know what that means. But so do you think that term helicopter parent will change when we have self-driving cars? Will it become or drone parents or flying car parent or something?
Nobody uses the helicopter parent thing anymore anyway. That was 10 years ago.
10 years. It's old.
Now it's just a given.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. It's like, if I'm always there to catch my kid when they fall, it's okay when they're 2 because, kids fall. But you got to let them make some mistakes to learn.
So good judgment is based on experience. Experience is based on bad judgment.
Exactly right. And again, we're not saying, well, you should let your kid, fall down the well and become homeless and all the rest of it. But there's a balancing act here.
Right.
So, okay, my kid lost his job. What's your response to that? What's your thought process?
Well, so find out, did I have any kind of short-term emergency plan? Probably not. And so you're better off to, okay, I'm going to give you some money to help bridge the gap here. And ask them, when will you qualify for EI or will you? When you're likely to find new work. Figure out what they need as a short-term pick-me-up and then decide whether or not you can afford to do that.
And this is not just financial, this is whatever not financial is.
Right.
So, okay, so you've lost your job. It's going to take a few weeks to get EI. How much is your rent? How much is your groceries? Whatever. But at the same time, is there anything else you can cut back on during this period?
Right.
Because if we're going to help you fund the shortfall, we would like the shortfall to be as little as possible. So I'm going to help you financially, but I'm also going to help you with some unsolicited advice.
It's an opportunity to do the whole Mark Twain thing, Tom Sawyer.
Which is?
Tom Sawyer had to paint his mother's fence. His aunt's fence.
His aunt's fence.
And they tricked the kids into doing it because it was an opportunity for something new.
Fantastic. That's a great way to...
It has nothing to do with this.
Nothing whatsoever, but I guess you get everyone else to help you and you're good. And again, we're trying to look at both sides of this because, yes, you want to help your kids, but we don't want you to get harmed as a result of the process.
And remember, we're accountants. So
yes, we are.
First and foremost, does any of this make financial sense? So just yourself. Do you want to be paying your kids' debts for the rest of your life? Right. Mm-hmm. And so the answer to that is no. They've got to learn that if they've incurred debt, they got to deal with them themselves and That's the focus.
Well, and a lot of it will depend on your situation. If you are 5 years from retirement, it's
Wouldn't
like,
that be nice?
It's like, okay, so now that's right. We all dream of being 5 years from retirement.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we hit the age of 80, we will be 5 years from retirement. So your working life is coming to an end, which
Right.
means my income is going to be dropping. I got to start, conserving my cash as well. Do I want to go into retirement with a couple of bucks in the bank or with a bunch of debt?
Right.
And by helping my kid, well, that may be putting...
You're certainly eroding your access to your own money.
Right. Now, again, if you got tons of money and your kid needs $500, fine, you give them the money and
You're
don't
probably
worry
not
about it.
listening to Debt Free.
Probably not. No, everyone listens for the witty repartee. I'm pretty sure that's why it is. So from a psychological point of view, if you help your kids that may make them more dependent on you.
Right.
And if it's a temporary thing, okay, probably not. But if it's like, yeah, you know what, for the rest of my life, you're going to have to be giving me $1,000 a month.
Yep.
That's not good for anybody. You also have the potential, I guess, to be enabling
Bad behavior. And
again, I don't want to use the term bad behavior necessarily, but okay, well, I know that if I get into trouble, mom and dad will bail me out. So I don't need to build up an emergency fund. I don't need to have a second job. I don't need to keep my costs under control. So I don't think that's great. And then you've kind of already alluded to it, that can also strain relationships.
Well, and it's not just the child-parent relationships. It's also the child-child siblings.
So tell me about that.
Well, so I've got 3 daughters. If I end up having to help one more than the other 2, I'm sure there's going to be issues.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Why are you helping her and not
question
helping
of fairness,
me?
right?
Yeah, you gave her money, you didn't give me money.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the solution to that, Dad?
Don't give any of them
Don't give
money.
anybody
That's the
any money.
solution.
Yeah, or it has to be clear what you're doing.
Right.
It's like, okay, daughter number 1 is going to school. I'm paying for her education. Mm-hmm. You're in grade 9. I don't have to give you any money for your education. Daughter number 1, I'm helping her out to buy a car, to buy a house, whatever
the issue is.
Yeah. Well, when you get to that stage, I will be here to help you out similarly. At this point, you don't need it. So I think having your intentions clear is important. Mm-hmm. And maybe in the case of a house, it's like, okay, I'm going to give you a couple $100,000, but I'm going to register a second mortgage.
Right.
So if the house ever gets sold, I'll get my money back.
Or you get divorced and they try to take half my money.
Exactly. Then it's already protected. And those
are all realistic concerns.
That's an absolutely realistic concern, because the logical time for a parent to be helping their kid buy a house would be when they get married and buy a house.
Right.
And so if the marriage doesn't work out, well, we don't want the asset being split 50-50 if I was the one putting in the money. Right. So I think, again, being clear with your intentions, here's why I'm doing it, there's a mortgage on it, this is what we're doing, then you can probably help out. Okay, so I think you've already addressed this, but co-signing means you're on the hook for the whole thing.
That's right. It's not that you're on the hook for some of it or part of it. You're responsible for 100% of the debt if the principal signer doesn't cover that.
So the question today, should you help your adult children with debt? I think the answer is, well, it's up to you. But going into debt for your kids is very risky.
Very risky.
But there are some alternatives to that. Mm-hmm. So let's close the show again on the practical advice side, talking about some of the alternatives. So one of the alternatives is, okay, I don't have a lot of money to help you, but can I help you in other ways?
Right. Can I teach you? Can you learn from my mistakes?
Yes.
That's the best way to describe it, right?
I made some errors. Here's what you could do.
Here's what I did wrong. Don't do that.
Well, so here's how I manage my money. Here's, I've got I hate budgets, so I wouldn't be teaching my kid that, but you got to know where your money's going.
Mm-hmm. You got to have a plan.
And it would be kind of nice if you could teach your kids this while they were still living under your own roof.
Right.
But if a kid doesn't have their own income, what do okay, you've got your odd jobs you do, you work at the store on weekends, whatever, I can sort of show you, but they're not paying the rent, they're not covering anything like that. So some of this is not practical until they actually get out there in the real world. But we've got the Hoyes and Michalos credit rebuilding course. Okay, well, that would be a resource to share with your kids or anybody. At what point do you have to say to your kid, look, you got a lot of debt. I can't bail you out. You need to be talking to a professional.
Right. And I would suggest that if the kid comes to you with excessive debt, that's probably when you want to start with that conversation. Because if nothing else, it means that you're forcing them to look at all of the available options. And frankly, it probably makes more sense for them to file a proposal than for you to give them a bunch of money and keep servicing the high interest debt.
Well, and everybody who watches this show knows what a consumer proposal is. It's a deal we make with the people you owe money to, and in most cases, you end up paying significantly less than the full amount.
You repay a portion of what you owe with no new interest charges.
So the typical client we deal with has something like $50,000, $60,000 worth of unsecured debt. Some people only have 20, some people have a lot more than that. So if your kid comes to you and say, yeah, I lost my job, a bunch of stuff has happened, I've had to use credit to survive, and now I've got $50,000 worth of debt.
Right.
Can you give me $50,000? That's a big number. No, I can't.
Yep. Well, even if you could,
does it make sense?
You should, right?
So the answer in that case might be, well, kid, I think you should talk to a professional about filing a consumer proposal. And if the consumer proposal is going to be, I don't know, $20,000, maybe I can help you with payments towards the 20.
Maybe.
Which is better than paying 50. So I'm still helping you get out of debt, but I'm helping you, with the proposal payment as opposed to the other. Now, again, it's not very common that a parent is going to be paying the consumer proposal payment for their kid.
Exactly. And it's not something we're suggesting.
But if you're going to be helping them, you're probably better off helping them with 20 than helping them with 50.
Right.
What about conditional help? So, look, I'm not going to write you a check because I can't do it, but okay, you've got some debts to pay off. Here's what I'll do. Over the next 6 months, for every $1,000 you pay down on your debt, I'll kick in another 1,000. So we're kind of working together on that. Is that a good idea, bad idea, situational dependent?
Yeah, I don't see a lot of people doing it, so I'm not sure what my opinion would be on that.
And it's because if you got money,
right,
it's just not a practical thing. So, okay, so the key takeaway to all this, the summary of all this is helping your adult children is your decision. It's not up to us to tell us.
Yep.
You're the one who knows what your situation is, how much money you've got, what the case is.
How able are you to help?
Yeah. And I think there would certainly be cases where, my kid was in a serious accident. Not their fault. I'm going to do everything I can to help them out.
Right.
My kid spent too much money and hasn't had a job in 3 years, even though they certainly could get one.
He's in his 8th year of university for an undergraduate degree.
That's right. So maybe there comes a time when you got to learn to stand on your own 2 feet.
Right.
And that's something only you as a parent can decide. My other key takeaway to all this is you have to protect yourself first.
Right. So the airplane's going down, the air masks fall, you put your own on before you put on your kids, because if you put your kids on and you die before you're no help to anybody.
Right. And that seems cruel.
Why? It's practical.
But it's practical. You're right, because if I pass out, I can't help you. Get my mask on, put their mask on. And I think you cannot go down with the ship trying to help your kids. You've got to be able to do it.
Sounds good in fairy tales, but practically, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and you already made the comment. We're accountants, so we're looking at everything based on the numbers. And I know, we are both parents as well. We both have kids, so we understand the dynamics of that. And so you got to take everything we're saying here with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I fought with my wife for 2 years before giving any of them credit cards. And now every time they use the card, the receipt better show up on my desk.
There you go. So, but that's a kind
to
of
teach them.
Yeah. But it's also a practical decision that if you're going out to buy that thing, me giving you $80 in cash is probably more dangerous than having a credit card.
You'll end up in French fries or something.
There you go. So, and again, you've made a conscious decision. Yes, I'm going to help you in this way, but here are the terms of that help. I want to see the receipt, so everyone kind of wins. So I think every situation is different. You got to think about it. But the key takeaway here, you think about it. Yes, there's money and there's compassion. You got to balance the two, but don't go down with the ship.
Right.
I think if you can do that, you're probably going to end up fairly well. Okay, any final comments on that, or have we've pretty much nailed it?
I think we're good.
Don't give your kids anything, I think was Ted's solution. So that is our show for today. Next week, Charlie returns, and we're going to discuss whether you are financially fit enough to invest. So today we talked about the debt side of it. Well, what about if I actually save some money? At what point can I start investing? Charlie and I will talk about that next week. Please like, subscribe, notifications, all the podcast platforms, YouTube. You know how to do it. Click them all. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.